Peters just did it again, and this time that beast is coming straight from Cleveland to Washington. We're talking about a player who, in that last full season with the Browns, gave up only 2 sacks in 826 snaps. 2, bro, in an entire season. That is not a lineman. That is a reinforced concrete wall set right in front of Jaden Daniels. But listen up, because this is not the only move that is shaking up the DMV this week. Inside the Commanders' war room, there is a draft debate that is splitting every NFL analyst. Pick number 7, 2 names, 1 single decision that can change the direction of this defense for the next 5 years. And at the end of this video, there is something about a veteran leader on this team that nobody in the DMV saw coming. Nobody. If this revolution is your thing, if you bleed burgundy and gold and believe in the new era Peters and Quinn are building in Washington, hit that like button right now and subscribe. This is Go Commanders. News 1, Delane or Downs. The draft debate nobody can solve. Okay, let's start with what has been making the most noise this week in Commanders world, and it is the kind of debate that hits different because there is no easy answer. It is not black and white. It is one of those draft dilemmas where 2 smart analysts can look at the exact same situation and land on totally different conclusions, and both of them can still be right. Here's the context. The Commanders hold pick number 7 in the 2026 NFL Draft. 7, bro. That is money. That is elite territory. And the $1 million question, literally the $1 million question is this. If defense is the priority, who do you take? The cornerback Mansour Delane out of Virginia Tech, who has earned the reputation as one of the best corners to hit the draft in years? Or do you roll with Caleb Downs, the safety from Ohio State that analyst Bucky Brooks over at NFL.com describes as a high IQ player who can flip games from the middle of the field? Bucky Brooks went straight at it, said, and this is worth hearing clearly, Mansour Delane is an A-level player. Fantastic, but there is doubt that he can impact the game the way a middle-of-the-field type like Caleb Downs can. When a team has an A-level safety, that changes everything. Those words are coming from someone who has spent decades evaluating NFL talent. So let's not just toss them aside. And look, the argument makes total sense. Completely. Let's break down the Caleb Downs case from a technical standpoint. Downs is a safety who does not look like a traditional safety. Not one of those who just hangs deep waiting on the go ball. This dude can play deep center field, cover the slot, roll down into the box to make tackles, and come on a blitz. This is the kind of safety modern defensive coordinators are literally paying a fortune to get. And the new Commanders defensive coordinator, Durante Jones, is coming from working with Brian Flores in Minnesota, a system famous for a blitz-heavy, disguise-heavy philosophy. For that scheme, having a safety who can line up in 10 different spots within the same call is basically a nuclear weapon. Think about it this way. When Jones sends Downs out there, the opposing quarterback has no clue whether that look is cover 2, cover 3, or an 8-man blitz. Downs can be in the box 1 snap, on the hash the next, then screaming off the edge on a blitz right after. That is what analysts call disguise, premeditated confusion built to blow up the quarterback's pre-snap read. And fam, in modern NFL football, that is worth pure diamonds. Now, the Mansour Delane case is just as brutally convincing. Check this stat and tell me your jaw does not drop. In the 2025 season, Mansour Delane allowed only 10 catches all year, 10 for 119 total yards. Bro, that is not just good. That is insane. That is borderline supernatural for a college cornerback. Matt Miller from ESPN threw that out on social media and called it the crazy stat of the day, and he was not wrong. When a corner is putting up numbers like that, NFL teams tend to do one thing. They grab that player in the top 10 without thinking twice. Thor Nystrom from Score North, another respected analyst, is standing on the exact opposite corner from Brooks. Mansour Delane absolutely deserves pick number 7. Delane Island is a name that has to be on Washington's radar, and that nickname, Delane Island, tells the whole story. This kid could go out there on an island one-on-one against an opponent's top receiver and win. That is what teams have been chasing for years and rarely find. And here's the ironic twist inside all of this. The fact that the Commanders signed Amik Robertson this free agency might be exactly the argument Adam Peters leans on to pass on Delane and go get Downs instead. Robertson brings versatility, can play outside, could bump inside to the slot, can do a little bit of everything. That plus young pieces like Trey Amos and Mike Sainristil might give Dan Quinn and Jones just enough coverage at corner to say, hey, we're fine on the outside. We need the playmaker in the middle. But here's the real problem with that line of thinking, and this needs to be laid out honestly. Amos and Sainristil are flashes, not finished products. Robertson is a solid player, but not a top 10 shutdown corner, and Durante Jones with his whole blitz-heavy system is going to need corners who can hold up man-to-man for a long count while the pass rush tries to get home. That demands high-end quality on the perimeter. Delane gives you exactly that at the highest possible level. On top of that, and this matters, nobody can just assume Downs is going to fall to 7. There's another team in the NFC East with that name on the board as well. If you sit back and fall asleep waiting on Downs and somebody else snatches that pick at number 6, what is plan B? Meanwhile, Delane, after those 2025 numbers, could just as easily go at 4, 5, or 6. In this draft, the window to grab either one of them can slam shut fast. Here's where I personally stand, and yeah, there is a real take here because this is Go Commanders, and nobody is hiding. If both are on the board at 7, I am going with Delane. The impact of a true shutdown corner in the NFL hits right away and shows up on the stat sheet. Linebackers and safeties get freed up to do more when a defense knows that outside corner has the opponent's number 1 completely locked down. That is elite defensive spacing. That is what flips seasons. And with Jaden Daniels on the other side of the ball needing time to grow that passing game, having a defense that could straight up steal games on its own is absolutely critical in 2026. But I want to hear from you, fam. This is exactly the kind of argument we live for here with pick 7. Are you rolling with Delane or Downs? Drop your answer down in the comments right now. There is no wrong answer. There are arguments. And around here, arguments get respect. Let's see what this Commanders family really thinks. All right, bro. Breathe, because what is coming next is something a lot of fans are not really talking about, but in my opinion, it is just as urgent for this roster. We spend a lot of time on the defense, but there is one spot on offense that is still a silent headache, and it belongs to a frame that stands 6 feet 6 inches tall. News 2, is Ethan Posick the perfect fit for Washington? The center problem is not solved yet. Okay, here we go with something that has had me low-key uneasy since free agency opened up while everybody was celebrating the defensive signings, and fair enough. Because Adam Peters absolutely crushed that side of the ball, this offense still has a massive hole that has not been filled, and that hole is sitting right in the middle of the offensive line. Tyler Biadasz, a name a lot of fans did not think they would miss this much, right up until that player was gone. The Commanders cut ties this offseason looking to save cap space, and what happened after that was kind of painful to watch. The Los Angeles Chargers swooped in and grabbed Biadasz in a blink on a 3-year, $30 million deal. Bleacher Report went as far as calling it the biggest steal of this year's free agency class. Bro, the biggest steal and the one who got robbed was this team. Look, cap decisions are a thing, but this one stings. Biadasz's numbers in Washington spoke loud and clear. In those 2 seasons in burgundy and gold, there were 31 straight starts, a pass block win rate sitting at 94.5%, and a run block win rate at 69.9%. That is not just some average center. That is a rock in the middle of your line, exactly the kind of anchor a quarterback like Jaden Daniels needs in front of that pocket while developing the full passing toolkit. And now that anchor is out in Los Angeles, helping another quarterback. So what is sitting in that spot right now? Nick Allegretti, a veteran journeyman who logged only 260 snaps in 2025 and who, according to Gary Davenport over at Bleacher Report, was not particularly good when on the field. That is not me being harsh. That is just the technical reality. Allegretti is not starter material for an offense trying to fight for a playoff spot. Period. That is why Davenport floated a solution, signing Ethan Posick, free agent center listed at 6 feet 6 inches and 320 pounds, 10-year veteran with 97 career starts. And yeah, that pitch makes sense at first glance. Posick has legit experience, full-time starter in Seattle, then full-time again in Cleveland. In that last full season with the Browns, there were only 2 sacks allowed in 826 snaps. 2, that is elite level protection for any offensive lineman. On top of that, this is a big-bodied player, strong with a high football IQ, exactly what Washington needs at the position. Davenport describes Počić as a solid addition on a one-year deal, not some long-term fix, but a reliable bridge while the team figures out the future of the position either through the draft or the next free agency cycle. And that, in my mind, is the right way to frame this. Washington is not signing Počić for the next 5 years. This would be about protecting Jaden Daniels in 2026 while the front office builds the long game. But, and here comes the big issue, there is one serious reason this plan might blow up. In December of 2025, Počić tore the Achilles tendon in that left leg in a Browns game against the Titans. Bro, an Achilles tear, that is not some nagging tweak you can tape up and play through. That is the kind of injury that wipes a player out for months, requiring surgery, a long rehab, and historically tends to rob linemen of some quickness and explosion even after they come back. Chris Easterling from the Akron Beacon-Journal confirmed the surgery. Cleveland understood how bad it was, and now Počić hits free agency with that cloud hanging over every conversation. So the real question becomes, when is this player actually ready? Achilles tears for offensive linemen usually come with timelines that land somewhere between 9 and 12 months from surgery. If the operation happened in December, the best version of Počić, even under an optimistic scenario, does not really show up until September or October, and that is right when the regular season is getting underway. Can a team really trust a 31-year-old center fresh off an Achilles tear to be the one protecting that franchise quarterback in those first few games? That is asking a lot, fam. Počić's own history does not exactly ease those concerns. 3 of the last 4 seasons came with multiple games missed due to injuries. This is not some fragile player made of glass, but there is no clean bill of perfect availability either. When that track record gets combined with the latest Achilles tear, Washington would have to be extremely careful before handing this player the keys to the interior line in 2026. My stance, on paper, Počić looks like exactly the kind of player Washington needs: experience, size, high-level processing, but that injury kicks the risk into a tier that is way too high for a guaranteed starting plan. Adam Peters should be pushing hard on the draft side. There are some solid center prospects in those middle rounds who could turn into the long-term answer. If Počić is healthy and on the market in August, then you bring that player into camp and see what is really there. But this cannot be plan A. That would be betting too much on a shaky foundation. Because at the end of the day, bro, Jaden Daniels is the future of this franchise. And the franchise future cannot be standing behind a soft spot in the center of the line. That lesson has already been learned the hard way in previous years. This team cannot afford to run that same mistake back. Drop it in the comments. Are you signing Počić knowing the injury risk, or are you heading straight to the draft for your center? I want to read all of that. All right. Let's take a breath. We went from draft debates to the hole in the offensive line, and now it is time to talk about something with a completely different flavor. There is one name on this roster, a veteran with history, with leadership, with serious emotional capital for this fan base, and the rumor mill is saying that player might not be here by 2026. Get ready. News 3, is Bobby Wagner heading to Tampa? The Commanders and the veteran leadership dilemma. Listen, there are certain conversations a fan base does not want to have. It is easy to stay in a hype bubble, celebrating the signings, dreaming about the draft, and then a rumor drops that drags you straight back down to earth. This is one of those times. Bobby Wagner, the man, the legend, 10-time Pro Bowl selection, 4-time All-Pro, one of the best linebackers of an entire era, no argument, showed up in Washington in 2025 with one mission: be the anchor of a defense being rebuilt from scratch. And what happened in that first year in burgundy and gold was exactly what anybody would expect. Vocal leadership, elite-level processing in the middle, and performances that reminded this fan base what it feels like to have a true professional running the heart of a defense. Now, with free agency in full swing, there are reports connecting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as a real landing spot for Wagner. And fam, that is the kind of information that hurts to even process. Why Tampa? Think about it from Wagner's perspective. 36 years old, 36 years at an elite standard with a body that is still making 28-year-old linebackers look bad, but still 36. At that point in a career, priorities shift. Maybe the priority becomes finding one more shot at a Super Bowl. Tampa Bay has a solid offensive infrastructure, recent playoff history, and a clear need at linebacker. From the player's side, the fit makes a lot of sense. From the Commander's side, the question is, do you let this player walk? This is where things get complicated because it is not just a cap space or on-field talent decision. It is a decision about culture and leadership. Wagner came into this locker room right in the middle of a transition period with a new head coach in Dan Quinn, a new defensive coordinator in Durante Jones, and a culture still being built. The value of Wagner's presence inside that room is something that does not show up in any official stat column. Now, to keep it real, the cap situation for 2026 is a factor. Washington has already made aggressive moves this free agency, strong defensive signings, work in the trenches, and every dollar matters. Wagner is not signing for cheap, and if Tampa Bay is ready to throw more money than Washington can put on the table. Peters is staring at a rough call. Here's the technical angle that a lot of people are not really weighing. With Durante Jones bringing in a new defensive structure, linebackers are going to have very specific roles. That blitz-heavy scheme needs backers who can process pre-snap movement at high speed, match backs and tight ends in space, and execute complex pressures. Wagner can still do all of that. It has been a calling card for an entire career. But there is still the age factor at 36. Can a team really build a 2026 defensive blueprint around a 36-year-old linebacker as the main anchor? That is the real conversation Quinn and Jones are having behind closed doors. The good news, if you can call it that, is that Washington is not completely empty at the spot if Wagner leaves. The linebacker room has been getting younger through the last two drafts. This is not the same disaster-level hole as, say, losing to starting outside corner with nobody behind, but it would be a real hit in terms of leadership, a culture hit, and on a team still trying to lock in an identity as a contender. Those hits matter more than people think. Bro, honestly, there is hope this stays just a rumor. That Wagner sticks around and stays part of what is being built here, but the business side of pro football says sometimes the great ones move on. And when that happens, you learn how to respect what that player did for your team while they go chase the next chapter. If Wagner ends up in Tampa Bay, Washington is going to have to find that leadership voice somewhere else. Maybe that comes through the draft. There are backers in this class with instincts and character, or maybe it is another veteran move in the coming weeks. Peters is not the type to leave a hole unpatched. That is already clear from how this free agency round has played out. In the meantime, fam, drop it in the comments. Do you want to see the Commanders fight to keep Bobby Wagner, or is it time to let the vet close out a career wherever that player wants it and push all in on youth? No wrong answer here. This is exactly the kind of call that can shape entire seasons, and that is how another day of news wraps up in the Commanders universe. If there is one thing to take away from this video, it is this. This team is in a live construction phase with real decisions and real consequences. This is not just hopeful fan hype. This is a franchise on the move with direction. From the massive Delane versus Downs draft debate, two bright options, two very different philosophies, to the quiet but critical hole at center that still needs a fix, to the potential exit of a veteran leader like Bobby Wagner. Every one of these storylines is a chapter in the book Adam Peters and Dan Quinn are writing for the 2026 Commanders. And what they are building, bro, has all the makings of something special. Jaden Daniels is in the building, the culture is shifting, the defense is being rebuilt with high-end pieces, and the draft is getting close. Fam, if this does not have you fired up, if this does not have you tracking every report, every move, every pick, then honestly, I do not know what to tell you. Because I am fully locked in, and we are going to be here every day, breaking down every move, every rumor, every bit of analysis with you, for you, fan to fan. If this video gave you something today, bro, you already know what you can do for me. That tells the algorithm this content deserves to reach more Commanders fans out there. Subscribe if you are not part of the family yet, and drop your take of the day down below. Delane or Downs, Potich, yes or no? Wagner staying or leaving? I read it all. Always see you in the next video. HTTR, Washington Commanders, baby, let's ride.